All right. Well, once again, this is a webinar covering what's new in Ultraedit 2023.2. I, again, am Ben Schwenk. I am Chief of Staff here at Ultraedit. Worked very closely with the two guys who will be presenting today, Bradley Hawkins, our product manager, and Johnny Pickle, our engineering lead. So we're pretty excited about this release, and we hope that you are too. It's actually a culmination of a long-term objective that we have with Ultraedit. And we started, just as a review, we started this series with the idea that we needed to modernize our JavaScript core. Now, many of you may be aware that Ultraedit includes scripting and has included scripting for quite some time, but what you may not have known was that scripting engine was very much outdated. So we took a massive leap forward in terms of that tech by updating the JavaScript core. In fact, we brought the Edgium browser environment into Ultraedit through some mechanisms that Windows makes available to us, so that we can now leverage not only the scripting environment, but the HTML browser rendering views as well. So if you use our live preview at all, you saw a massive update there in Ultraedit 2023.0, along with the JavaScript engine update. And so we've been able to, in terms of live markdown preview, live HTML preview, really take that to the next level and bring over the developer tools that you're used to having right in your browser. I don't know if you knew that, but if you use live preview in Ultraedit today and you hit Control-Shift-I, you can open up the in-browser dev tools just like you can in Chrome or Edge. We also, in this series, have integrated PowerShell. We have a dockable PowerShell window, and we have plans to continue to provide a higher degree of integration between PowerShell and Ultraedit. And then we have continued to make improvements to our large file handling throughout this series, so that your experience editing large files, which was already unparalleled in Ultraedit, is even better, even more unparalleled. So we're pretty excited about all of these things, but we're even more excited about what they empower us to do over the coming series in 2024. And so Brad and Johnny are going to talk a little bit more about that, and they'll get into what the future holds for Ultraedit, for JavaScript, and for plugins and all of that stuff. So just a couple quick housekeeping things. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the questions panel. You should see that that GoToWebinar provides, and we will be recording this and uploading it to our YouTube channel, so you can always refer back to it later. With that said, I'll let Brad go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty of what's new in the latest release. Brad, go ahead and take it away.
Sure, thank you, Ben. Before I switch over to talk about 2023.2, I want to comment a little on what Ben already covered. The short list you see under 2023 review, Ben hit the highlights there, and I want to comment that there was a lot more in 2023.0 and 2023.1, many enhancements, but we highlighted these 4 items because they directly tie into the work we're doing in 2023.2, and they also tie into work we're going to be doing in 2024.0. And I'll point those items out as we talk about the 2023.2 release features, and also when we get to the end, when we talk about what we're going to be doing in 2024, I'll also highlight how these features tie together and how they allowed us to do the next steps. So talking about 2023.2. First up, we have our macro UI update. You know, the macro capabilities in Ultraedit have been there for a very long time, and the interface hasn't really changed at all, and it has worked for our users, but we felt that we could consolidate the user interface, kind of bring it together so there's not quite so many steps, quite so many dialogues that you have to look at. And we'll see that in just a moment, but that was the main impetus behind that UI update, was just to simplify it for our users. We're also going to be talking about the initial plugin framework that was added in 2023.2, and a set of plugins that we've included to showcase the initial set of features that are provided by plugins. And Johnny's going to go into much greater detail on what plugins bring now and what they're going to bring in the future. So I'm going to first bring up the macro UI update, macro UI update, and I'm going to switch over to demo system. So let's take just a moment. All right, so we've got Ultraedit here, and I'm going to just bring up the macro configuration dialog, or this is actually the macro editing dialog. And what we've done is we've taken what was uh, two complete different dialogues, one for editing and one for individual macro settings, and we've combined those. So you have the macro editing feature and you have the macro settings feature, and those were separate dialogues that you had to move back and forth whenever you're editing macros or making changes to macros. And we've consolidated those into one dialog. We've also, under the macro list, we have all the macro commands. There's also parameters to those commands, and these used to be a separate list below this list, so you had to move back and forth between those two lists to add parameters. And now the parameters have been added into this convenient tree control so that you can access the macro parameters, the macro commands, and you can do it all from a single window. It just makes adding these commands to an existing macro or to a brand new macro, it just makes them a little bit easier. In addition to the edit and create changes to this dialog, switch over to the macro settings. We have a consolidated macro settings dialog. This dialog was originally two separate dialogs and a set of checkboxes in the ribbon. So we've taken those three different UI locations and elements and consolidated them down to a single dialog. And now you can access, these are all global macro settings, meaning they apply to all macros that you might execute. And this just makes it easier for the user, so that instead of having to juggle multiple dialogues, remember where the different settings are, you can access all the macro global settings from a single dialog. So that was the macro UI update. We've covered that. Okay, now we're going to go over to plugins. And Johnny, you want to jump in and start talking about our plugin system?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Bradley. So what is a plugin system? Basically, a plugin system revolves around the concept of plugs or services. These plugs are essentially modular units of code that encapsulate specific functionality. The host software, in this case Ultraedit, defines a standardized API, which we're currently using the scripting API, which serves as a well-defined contract between the software and its potential plugins. This API acts as a bridge, allowing consumers the ability to integrate their own solutions seamlessly with the host software. How did this all come about? I think development has wanted a plugin system for a while. As Ben had talked about before, we've supported a scripting engine in Ultraedit for quite a while, and we used the antiquated SpiderMonkey scripting engine from Mozilla. I say antiquated because it hadn't seen an update in a while, because it became like a maintenance nightmare for us. It was enmeshed with the longer they worked on Mozilla, the longer it got enmeshed with more and more code libraries on the Mozilla side, and we couldn't bring in all those libraries. Luckily for us, Microsoft provided a solution when they came up with the Edge browser and WebView 2. Not only could we now integrate a modern browser API into Ultraedit, we could also leverage the advanced V8 JavaScript engine. This opened up all kinds of ideas for us in plugins. Currently, what's in 2023 too is kind of a rudimentary system. It's more of a proof of concept, and it's really our foundation for what we really want to do in the future. And over the next year or so, we'll be expanding its capabilities quite a bit. So architecture. The plugin system that we have is composed of the manifest JSON, one or more scripting files, a Ultraedit provided config.json. So that's generated by the app. That's not something that will be generated by a third-party user. And then we have the internal plugin manager. So the manifest.json basically describes the plugin bundle. It has basically the name, display name, short description, long description, version information, the name of the primary script, a unique GUID that can be that we can use to identify the plugin. So if people provide plugins with the same name, we'll be able to tell the difference. And then their own icon to be used in the ribbon or menus and toolbars. Now, some of the items in there, like the long description and stuff, those things won't be seen currently. That's we have plans for in the future so that you'll be able to have like a plugin manager GUI that you can load. You can set it so that if you don't want certain plugins to load and stuff, then you can set that up. But that's again for the future. The script file will be the JavaScript file. Currently, the JavaScript file can only be Unicode. We're only supporting Unicode for that script file. And then it will have all the code that interacts with the application using our scripting API. The config.json file is a application created file. So internally, what we do is we'll load all the plugins and we'll interrogate them for information about the different functionality of the plugins. And then what we do to make it easier for us is that we create this config.json that we can read that has all the information that we need. So there's a versioning system, and as updates are made, they'll automatically get copied over into the user data directory, and then those will be reinterrogated to see if there are any changes to the script information. And then the plugin manager itself is the internal code that basically handles the plugin system in general, right? So it's the heart of the plugin system. It'll read in the plugin data, and then it's called whenever information is needed or requested about a specific plugin, like the script. And then that information will get sent off to the scripting engine. So I think the next thing that we want to talk about is the actual plugins that were provided in 2023.2. So we are going to run through the examples of our current set of plugins that were shipped.
Yeah, and I'm going to start out with the first couple plugins and turn it over to Johnny to demo the rest of them. Before I do, I want to add on to what Johnny was commenting on about how our plugin system works. And that I said that our list of items from 2023 series led up to where we are now. And just to kind of fill that in a little bit, the first two items in our list from earlier in the presentation, the JavaScript update and the live preview, both of those are built on the underlying browser component provided by Microsoft, WebView 2. And they tie directly into this plugin system. They give us the entire foundation to make this work, and everything Johnny said wouldn't be possible without that foundation. So each release this year has been building one component on another to reach the point where we have our first iteration of plugins and what we're going to do next year. So just thought I owed you that explanation, since I said that we were going to that they were going to tie all this together. So I'm going to jump over to the plugin examples. And the first two that I'm going to do is our Code Surround plugin and the SQL formatter. So let me switch to our demo system, and we should be there. So let's see. Talking about the, well, first let's give you just a quick overview of, for the plugins, we've added a new plugin section to our ribbon. You can see this right here, where each of the individual plugins resides as commands, or like in the case of Code Surround, multiple commands. Also for plugins, we've added to our command palette. The plugins are also available from our command palette. Like you can just type in plugin and you can see all the plugins that are available in Ultraedit right now. And you can see the keyboard shortcuts that apply to each plugin command. And a plugin can have multiple commands. For instance, the Code Surround has 5 different commands. The other plugins have 1 command each. That's entirely at the discretion of the plugin creator. So very straightforward here. For instance, the Code Surround, I just select that and say I want to surround it with quotes. And it's surrounded by quotes. Same thing applies to the other items. You can select the line, a block, and it will apply the appropriate surround characters to the line or block. So it's a convenience feature. You know, you could easily accomplish something similar with our templating system, but this way you're able to tie it to explicit discrete commands and populate our ribbon with commands, you know, that are very clearly labeled as code surround, add shortcut keys. So it may be a convenience feature, but it is a convenience feature that's exposed very easily in the plugin. For the SQL formatter, it does exactly what it says. For instance, I have this file that I've opened here. It's a basic example SQL file. I can click Format SQL, and it reformats the SQL, spacing, breaking into lines, making it easier to read without changing or upsetting the correct syntax of the SQL file. But you can see that it's now a much more human readable file. And let's see, the next one we're going to do, I'm going to switch over to Johnny. Are you ready, Johnny, for your demo?
Yes, I am.
All right, let me see if I can switch over without a a glitch this time.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I just wanted to reformat this so it's easier to be seen. So this is just a JSON file. I actually took it from one of the plugins. And then the one that I want to show is the convert JSON to XML. And there it goes. It converted all the JSON to an XML format. So the next one is split file. We actually have the base of this was provided to us by a customer long ago. And then I'll say 20,000 lines, only 200,000 lines. And then you can see that it has broken up the file into 200,000 line segments. And then the remainder is in the last file. And then the last one I'd like to show off is format tabs to spaces leading, which is actually been placed under the format tab under tabs and spaces. So, and this requires a selection. And there you go. Replaced all the tabs to spaces. And that will be a feature that will be for plugins as well. You'll be able to place plugins wherever they need to be in the ribbon. So if you have things that are like functionality, you can place them in the ribbon where with the other functionality. And I am done with my examples.
Awesome, thanks. Hey, one thing you might want to point out on the file splitter there was that that was a pretty large file, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So it's 1.4 million lines.
Yeah. So just to underscore that, you know, we've kind of made our place in the market by being an editor that can handle almost any file, or not almost any file that you throw at it, including huge files. And that philosophy and that mandate is going to carry over to plugins to the degree that that is possible. So we will continue to make sure that our plugins, as with all our functionality, performs well and can handle large amounts of data. I was hoping maybe John, or actually this would probably be more for Brad. Is there anything that you could speak to, Brad, that might be coming over the next release or two in terms of the continued development of plugins? Obviously, we can't promise anything or publish roadmaps, but a general sense of what the next step might be.
Yeah, and we're actually going to, that's the next thing we're going to talk about. Hey, Johnny, if you can switch the presenter back over to me. But yeah, Ben, we do, while we're working out the presentation, getting that reset, we do have plans, large plans for plugins throughout the coming year. All right, so let's see, let's go on to, here's what's coming next. So yeah, we do have plans, Ben, for what we're going to do. We're going to be releasing in 2024, we're going to be releasing a plugin SDK, and we're going to continue working on the plugin API to provide more and more features to the plugin API. That includes UI elements that go beyond just tying into the ribbon or toolbars, but allowing plugins to have their own dedicated windows. With the current setup is that those windows will be powered by using JavaScript, HTML, CSS. So you'll be able to create a plugin and provide a user interface and have a dedicated window that without having to leave the web environment you're working in. In fact, one of the reasons we chose to go with JavaScript and having the back end of the plugins be the WebView 2 was because we wanted to reach one of the broadest audiences we could with plugins, and we felt that allowing users to build on the existing JavaScript, environment that exists, and the huge number of JavaScript and associated resources would really allow almost any of our users to at least, make an attempt at plugins if they wish, because the barrier to entry is relatively low. So, but yeah, we're going to be working on plugins throughout the year, and like I said, we can't publish a roadmap for you right now, but that is one of our goals, is to release a plugin SDK as part of the 2024 series, and to release more advanced features for plugins in the 2024 series. Johnny, anything else you want to talk about for the upcoming plugin work we're going to do in 2024 before I talk about other features for 2024?
Yes, I have a few points. There's 4 ways in the future that we'd like to expand the plugin functionality. The first is we'd like to add more hooks into the existing code, allowing users to use all the features in UE. This includes hooking into our native UI elements, such as the dockable windows, menus, toolbars, and the ribbon. We'd like to add full edit capabilities, allowing users better access to editing and the reading of the underlying file for our files, and allowing better access to things like syntax highlighting. Second, and more exciting to me, is allowing users to react to events inside the application. So like if you can have the plugins configured so that they'll fire when someone opens a file or closes a file, or the application starts up or shuts down. Or if you switch tabs, you can use that as a trigger to fire off a plugin, or after a certain feature completes. Third, we would like to allow the user access to native OS features and resources. And finally, we would like to allow users to design their own custom UI interfaces using JavaScript, HTML, CSS in both a dockable window environment or from an actual view, like an edit view. This would allow users to not only interact with Ultraedit and the system, but also resources on the internet as well. Again, unfortunately, I'm not sure that's like our final stage. That's like the masterpiece of the plugin system, and I'm not sure when this will hit our roadmap. But we'll be continuously working on this as we move forward, and we're excited with the positive impact that these changes will have for our customers. I think that's all. I think that covers our future plugins. So you
Thank you,
can talk.
Johnny. That's quite a lot coming with plugins, and as I said earlier, we can't promise that all of that will make it in 2024, but we are definitely working on it, and we want to get as much of that as we can, and we will continue working until we do achieve those features with plugins. In addition to plugins, we're also looking at and again, this is going to tie into one of the line items from one of the earlier slides. We said that we'd expanded on large file handling enhancements to our large file handling feature earlier in the 2023 series. Kind of playing on this with data and database features. We want to continue expanding on that. We have a lot of users who use Ultraedit to view, examine, edit large database dump files or other extremely large files that are related to the data or databases they're working on. We want to continue enhancing that to provide more support, to provide faster support. Our users already are opening multi-gigabyte, hundreds of gigabytes files, and you can open even larger files with Ultraedit, but we want to allow users to go beyond that and open any file and be able to edit it with the performance they would expect, whether it's 10 gigabytes, 100 gigabytes, a terabyte larger. Our goal is to make sure that that's always possible with Ultraedit, and we're going to continue working on that specifically to meet the needs of our customers that have asked for even more extreme file sizes. And as part of that, talking about data and databases, the same user base that is asking us to be able to edit even larger and larger files would also like to be able to directly access their databases from within Ultraedit. We've had a number of customers ask, so we're exploring that. Can Ultraedit directly communicate with the various databases? Can they export that information or extract information, make changes? And that's on our future feature list for 2024 to look at. What can we do there? I think that'll make a lot of our customers happy. Whatever additions we can make there, it'll really expand what Ultraedit can do within the database arena. We're also looking at EDI for the electronic data interchange formats. I mean, the EDI really covers the whole process between communication, file formats, data formats, and actual documents. Where Ultraedit would come in here is we've had customers ask us, hey, we'd really like to be able to open these specific EDI formats that we use for, whether it's shipping or purchasing orders or other business-related documents. We'd like to be able to open those, view them, edit them, and do various operations with them. And so that's another item that we're looking at is what can we do with Ultraedit? Is this something we could do from a plugin? Every single item on here, we're also looking at, can we make this something that would fit into our plugin ecosystem? So it's easier for us to edit, easier for us to maintain, easier for us to make additional changes. So that's also something we're looking at. And then next up that I'm sure everyone has become somewhat familiar with over the last year or so is AI features in editors and other applications. We have not missed that trend. We've been focusing on it very closely, and we're working a number of areas where we can add AI capabilities to Ultraedit. from a code advisor or code assistant that would allow you to get assistance with writing code, creating new projects, making changes to your code, getting suggestions on how to improve your code, all the features you would expect from modern AI services. We're looking at bringing that into Ultraedit. Something like a help or task assistant, so you could use our command palette to issue commands to an underlying AI assistant and say, I'd like to use Ultraedit to accomplish this, and it would return with these are the commands or features you would need to use in Ultraedit to accomplish that task, or would offer suggestions on features in Ultraedit and how to use those features to accomplish tasks. And also product-specific features, meaning features in Ultraedit, how could we enable AI to make those features even better? Some suggestions that we've been looking at would be like a regular expression builder. Like, I need to accomplish a certain task in Ultraedit. I have a set of data. I need to do something with it, and I'd like a regular expression that will allow me to do that. And so we're looking at what would be required. How possible is it for us to use natural language to result in a regular expression that we could then feed back into Ultraedit to achieve those results. So a number of areas that we're looking to embrace AI, and that's going to be in development throughout 2024. So we're really excited to see how some of that comes about. And then a much smaller feature, but one that I think we've had a lot of requests for to improve or to offer additional capabilities. Building on the last item in the list from earlier in the presentation, where we mentioned the PowerShell terminal, is people have asked for an improved SSH Telnet terminal. And because of the work we've done with the PowerShell terminal, we're going to be able to build on top of that and provide a much more robust SSH Telnet terminal that to replace our current SSH Telnet terminal. So I think that gives a pretty good rundown of the highlights of what we're looking for in 2024. Ben or Johnny, anything you'd like to add for what we're looking at in 2024?
I think that
Nothing on
covers
my
it.
end. You've done a good job.
Well, if nobody's got anything to add to that, let's jump over. Do we have any questions that we'd like to get some answers for? We have a little bit of time left, so we can answer a few questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, we do have a few questions that came in about plugins specifically. Johnny, I think you spoke to this a little bit already, but the question is, can I develop my own plugins? So what can I do today? What can I develop plugins today? If not, when can I start to do that? When can users start to do that?
Today, no, we haven't published the SDK, and we actually have it locked so that it will only run the plugins that we ship with. We are looking for a more for the SDK and stuff. We're looking for the 2024 series. Is it 2024.1 2024.0? Is that when we plan on publishing the SDK?
We're currently planning that, Johnny. So we don't want to announce a specific version right now.
Okay. So hopefully sometime in the 2024 series, we'll be publishing the SDK and allowing users to actually.
I can narrow that down. We will be publishing an SDK in the 2024 series. So that is what we will do. We just can't say with certainty that it's going to be specifically this release or point version at this time.
Because there are quite a bit that we want to add before, right? There are several things that we want to add before we publish the SDK. So.
Awesome. So it'll be a version or two before we get there. No problem. Can I, as a user, modify the behavior of the new existing plugins that are in this release?
Yes, that is possible.
And that's just a matter of opening up those scripts and modifying them?
Yes.
Okay. And then can users define custom icons for their plugins?
Yes, that code is in there. So the ones that we're shipping now don't have custom icons. We had discussed creating them, but we that didn't happen. But yes, the once the SDK is published and released, then yes, users will be able to create their own custom icons that will show up, in the command palette, ribbons, menus, toolbars.
Awesome.
And we will be, one of a large reason we wanted plugins was not just for users, but also for our own use, because it does open up development to allow us to develop outside of our native C, C++, and develop in a much broader ecosystem of JavaScript. We're going to be releasing plugins from our own development to add new features to Ultraedit. Just like the set that we demoed today, we're going to be adding more and more plugins that will provide features. So we're going to be taking advantage of items like being able to add it directly to the ribbon, like the leading tabs to spaces command that was added. We're also going to be adding icons for those too. So the next set of plugins that we provide, you can expect to see custom icons included with those as well. So that functionality is there, and we will be taking advantage of it in our own plugins. So you're going to be seeing that soon.
Great, thank you. And then we have some questions here about some of the other versions of products. So what about UE Studio? Are we going to get an update for UE Studio within the next few weeks, month? What's the plan there?
UE Studio was updated on Friday.
Okay, so we've already got the update.
Yeah, Ultraedit and unless something something unforeseen happens, Ultraedit and UE Studio are being updated at the same time, same release from now on, and that should have been the case all of this year, I believe.
Yeah, and I think part of the confusion there is that some people are reporting or asking when check for updates will be enabled, and just to kind of give some clarity on why that hasn't happened yet. We had an issue that revealed itself after we had a legal company name change that affected our digital signing of our binaries. And anytime we're downloading something to your computer automatically, we have to be beyond reproach in terms of how we handle security, make sure that we're actually downloading what we think we're downloading, not just us, but any application. And so we're working through an issue there with the company name change that wasn't matching up on the certificate that has unfortunately delayed check for updates for now, but you can manually download and get the latest version from our site. And then the last question here, Brad, what about Mac and Linux? Do we have any updates planned for them?
We have an internal build. Ultra Compare for Mac was updated recently, so that has been updated very recently. For Ultraedit, we have an internal update for Mac and Linux for UEX for Ultraedit Mac and Linux. That is in testing now, and it's on our schedule to go to beta. With it's going to be after Christmas, where we're down in that holiday season, so it's making things a little tight on scheduling. But we do have a beta that, like I said, we have it in testing, and we just need to get it out after Christmas, and that will be a new release of Ultraedit for Mac and Linux with a number of new features. The enhanced large file handling that we've talked about in this from a previous release, that's going to be included. It's getting a terminal, a native terminal on Mac and Linux, similar to the PowerShell terminal. That's coming along with this update for Ultraedit. So we do have numerous bug fixes, of course, like we do whenever necessary. So we do have that release, and we have not forgotten about it. It is planned, it is in testing, and you will see it within the next few weeks.
Great. All right, well, I think that's about it for our questions. We're at a solid almost 45 minutes here, so I guess we can wind things down. I just wanted to say thank you to Brad and Johnny for demoing the new functionality and giving us a glimpse of the road ahead. Pretty exciting things in terms of plugins. I mean, I'm personally am excited about it because it seems like there are so many little idiosyncratic things that I do that maybe no one else does, or that aren't worth, spending development time on. But being able to program that functionality into my editor would be immensely useful for me, at least. So excited about plugins, and also thank you to everyone who attended, who interacted and asked questions. We appreciate it. If you have a question that we didn't cover here, or you have a question about your license or anything at all, please feel free to email us at idm@ultraedit.com, or you can use support@ultraedit.com if you have more of a technical question, and we will get a response to you same day, but usually much faster than within a day. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar, and we will hopefully catch you on the next one.